How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Pritchard Pub. This evening, we got a special guest, Mr. Paladin Dragoon. How you doing this evening, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. For those who don't know, you're an author and, well, a man of many talents, I'd say, but mostly an author, right? With recently getting into Anvil magazine, and you're working on other stuff, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Starting off at the beginning. I worked out in the oil field since I was about 11, 12, with my father, doing electrical engineering and welding, stuff like that. And then when he retired, I largely retired too. And that was about, God, I want to say like 11, 12 years ago now. And the writing thing is something new just to keep myself sane because retirement sucks. Boring.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's kind of my goal for retirement too, to be honest. Just ramp it up.
Oh yeah. As long as these idiots don't wreck the economy, we'll be fine. But
Yes, gotta
yeah,
just make it there. That's it.
just gotta keep going. Just gotta keep it going.
That's the glory of writing too. You can just constantly invest in it. It's not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Well, I mean, like I don't have to go anywhere. Like I can literally just write 12 to 16 hours a day. Which when I first started working on the fantasy stuff, that was like a 5 year thing. So about 5 years. Yeah, I'd say about 16 hours a day, and kept it going for that entire time. And eventually, you saw what the ultimate, what that ultimately led to when you read the pulp. So
Yeah, and that many hours really adds up. You can get your daily 1,000 in pretty easy. Probably set some good goals.
oh yeah, well like I was telling Blanley Part O, it was I hit about 2 million words, and by that point it was like I felt like I had found my writing voice. As far as like, but the prose aspect of stuff. I got a rough idea of how I could do all the comic book scripts, so it'll be pretty easy to keep it going that way. And then like just as the more I write, the better I'll get. The better I'll get, the better the stories will become. So in order to justify the metric ass load of money that the graphic novel is going to cost, I got to get an audience. So here I am, like submitting like pulp novellas to Anvil magazine. So
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at too. I was like, you gotta get out there somehow, and I think that's why greats like Stephen King and stuff. I know he's pretty divisive in recent time, but the big ones, they always preach uh, getting into a magazine, right? Or
yeah,
or something like that. Like even Lovecraft, Lovecraft, he was in like magazines and stuff. So hey,
hey Herman.
yeah, we got Herman P. Hunter in the chat. How's it going, buddy? The Hedge himself. Thanks for coming and saying hi. So the stuff in Anvil, you said you were submitting to build your audience here. What are some of the stories about? I know I read one with the dragon, and they're
Yeah,
not paladins, right?
no. So they're both
Right.
priests.
Yeah, the
So the
priest.
first,
Right.
I was first published in Anvil magazine #1. And that story was Brigands of the Moors, and that was a very short story, but it was like at the time when I wrote it, it was like, okay, here's what this would look like, right? And then
Yeah.
I finished the first full pulp novella, which was almost 150,000 words, um, and I sent it off to Richard. At first, he was like, I don't think I could publish this, but then started reading it, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna take it. This is good. And so he cut it in half, and then
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
That's
so
cool.
the next pulp novella will be The Night of Cold Hunger, and it'll be in issues 4 and 5 of Anvil magazine.
Yeah, you're the first serial author, right, in Anvil, officially.
Yeah, I think so. I like, unless somebody else is working something that's like continuous like I am. But
Yeah, I think there's been repeating faces, but I don't know if there's been repeating stories, if that makes sense.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
And so like my idea was, well, like this setting needs like not just a face, but it needs like a like I don't know, like the best way to describe it is like a good foot forward as far as like what to expect. And so when I had wrote wrote the novella, like a little outline, which is like all the collected stories that eventually leads up to the graphic novel. Like that, it made sense to me, and it's the best way I could describe it. So
Yeah, and from what I can tell, like from your art and your decision to go with like Anvil, you are like taking it seriously and putting a lot into it. So that's nice to see.
yeah, I had originally had a couple artists out in the Philippines. And Kahuna's in the chat.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I had hired a couple artists out in the Philippines. The main artist, she disappeared, died. I don't know what happened with her. She just dropped off the planet. So I had to scramble, get everything kind of organized, and then eventually I found Joe San art, and that is Joe Sanchez, formerly of DC Comics. And as you've seen his artwork, he's phenomenal. He's amazing. I love everything he's sent me so far, and it just gives it much more like gravitas. I think is a good way to put it when you see him like get these pictures up of this setting and these characters. It just feels so right.
Hell yeah, I've seen Joe San. He's one of my goals. I would like to afford a few of the artists that you actually go through someday for some things, probably book covers. That just seems the most feasible, unless any of them want to sit down and do a full comic, but that's a lot of work in and of itself. So yeah. Someday, Joe San, someday. But like I like his style,
Yeah, he like when I initially approached him, I was like, all right, here's what I've got. I sent him my script, and he read it, and it took him about like a week because the full script for the graphic novels of almost 400 pages of comic book like layouts for each panel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he said, it's like, this is really good. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, I've seen like a lot of like scripts and stuff like that come my way. Because at the time I didn't realize he had worked for DC Comics, but he's like, but this is really good. All the characters feel like they're there. They feel like they have a voice. They feel like they have a personality. And then it's like they start talking, and he's like, it's a family almost. It's like that's kind of the idea, especially between the dragons and their riders, because they kind of like bond on a spiritual level, and it's like a family thing. So like when he refers to like when Sherida refers to Torshin as brother or elder father, like or like when they refer to each other in that regards, that actually they mean it. It's not just like in the religious sense; it's also almost in the familial sense as well.
So there's that strong connection there on a family level, bonded like with their souls or their spirits or whatever. I dig that a lot. That's kind of where I'm getting at with spirit animals too. I like that.
Well, it's like
mine isn't so like faith though. It's probably more like animism or closer to stuff along those lines. Maybe dualism.
Yeah, well, like I mean, I went for like a mix of like Conan and Solomon Kane, like because I like both of those series. Like I never got into Solomon Kane, but when Razor had started talking about it, I started reading it. I was like, holy shit, this is really good, cool. I need to keep reading this, and so I bought like the collected works of it, kind of perused through it. I was like, no, this I could dig this. But with them, it's like they're both priests, so they have to sound and like feel like priest.
That's one of my favorite things, actually, is the dialogue. The actual like badassery that they're slinging out. It's pretty cool. Another author that does this is Macapin. If you've read his stuff, he has some characters in there that do deliver that very well. And I was getting kind of in the same vein, and I'm sure there's a lot of other authors that kind of do it in a secular way too. I mean, can you think of any character that, like, I don't know, what you're doing is you're talking shit to demons while you're slaying them. So like, is there any sort of secular character from any other franchise you can think of that's like talking shit while they're maybe Constantine?
Constantine, or
he's not secular though.
No, but a good example would be Warhammer Fantasies, like anything written by, I think it's William King. Because that was like, because I read that entire series. I loved the shit out of it. But how he wrote Gotrek and Felix, like that did inspire these two, because like they're a pair of characters who are like kind of joined on this spiritual quest. For the Warhammer Fantasy stuff. But like with Torshin and Sharita, the idea with them, it was like, no, they're out there, and they're both like, they're not antagonistic towards one another.
No.
Antagonistic towards the world, because like the idea is like they're a spiritual artillery piece that was just unleashed on the world. Like, okay, go out there and kill.
Yeah.
God told them to do it. And so they go out there, and it's just like, oh, hey, look, the good guys arrived. It's like, wait, what's that rumbling? And then like the city disappears,
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah, I love that.
Called down fire and brimstone. Yeah, well, it's like, because like technically their faiths are very different from one another. The human church is like more Catholicism, like based, and the dragons are more along the lines of Protestant. Like I grew up in a mix of a Mormon and a Baptist household, so that kind of colored my religious outlook growing up. But when you have those two characters, the idea was like, okay, so while they may be both very different spiritually, like they're both allied, they're both like they're doing this for their own personal reasons, but they're not going to like be antagonistic towards one another, because that kind of defeats the purpose of why they're out there in the first place.
Yeah, they're like one, Yeah. They're the artillery piece, not the artillery pieces.
Yeah, they're not the full artillery section. They're just one of the guns, and they've been sent out to like go slay evil. But it was a lot of fun, like writing their banter, because it's like the idea is like they had been traveling for about 60 years with one another prior to like the events of that story happening for Night of Cold Hunger. So when that story opens up, they have already been traveling together for 60 years. They're both they're both fairly familiar with one another. They understand how each other thinks, and technically they both have the same voice, but two different like outlooks on all of that. So that was kind of a little bit of a struggle to get that right, but eventually I figured it out.
Yeah, finding the voice of characters is a struggle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I try not to think about it, so it's probably one of my weaknesses, because I probably don't give it as much thought as I should. But
the best thing to do in that regards is you should like kind of like, okay, how would they interact with not only will these characters interact with themselves, but how will they interact with the world? How will they interact with enemies and stuff? Like, you have to kind of put a little bit of thought into that, because what'll happen is it'll color everything, and then from there you just kind of build off of it. So
right.
With them, it was like, hey, these two guys are, in essence, like badasses. Like they know it. But the idea is like I've kind of implanted like a conceptual idea of like, okay, if they in like when you look at a pulp, like how a pulp is like written and like and how it's structured, these characters are good at what they do. They know that they're good at what they do, and that's why they do it, because they know what the hell it is they're doing. But they're not gonna like be cowardly. They're not gonna do anything that would jeopardize like not only their image, but also like the crusade that they're currently fighting themselves on. So
right.
So that'll like kind of cover however it's like kind of adjust how they're going to react to certain things. But when you get to like how like when you wind them up and you point them at an enemy, like they're just going to destroy it, just flat out, just douche.
Yeah.
Kahuna called it like fast characters, intros, and very distinct personalities. Yeah, he's
exactly. Yeah,
very, very accurate. So when you get to the next pulp, which is almost finished, like I'm still like going through like the last like bit of editing before I send it back to Daniel for the next review. But when you see them in that one, that's actually a major villain who's going to like pop up regularly throughout the series. So I had to make that guy, you know, competent. So that's his superpower, is he's actually he knows what the hell he's doing. But it's always going to be like they just can't quite kill him because I need him to live. So
Right, right. Yeah, you're gonna have, yeah. It's interesting when you got to figure that out, because you can't just you also can't just like let that flap in the wind. You're gonna have to like tie that knot. But do me a favor, keep telling the chat about your story. I need to go get my son really quick because he's taking apart a keyboard right
Okay.
now. So
Go for it.
I need to go take that all away. So just keep talking.
I shall. So the pulp involves two priests. The dragon is an elder priest by the name of Torshin the Enduring, and his companion is Sharita the Pious, or Sharita the Pious. How that's kind of interchangeable how that's pronounced, but and their whole purpose is they're out on a crusade, killing evil monsters and killing and destroying wicked men, all under command of God, who basically, you know, like, hey, there's evil in the world, we have to get rid of it. But their whole point, their whole purpose for doing all this is that they do have an ultimate goal that they have to go to. So this entire pulp series is them making their way to go do that. But as the series progresses, like, you'll get kind of a more in-depth look at just the setting itself, because ultimately all this is just like a lore dump and background information for some of the major players and characters in the setting for the graphic novel. But I had to make it entertaining enough to like want to keep people coming back more and more. So hopefully I pull that off. We'll see. But beyond that, though, the first pulp should be out soon. I'm not sure like when the book is going to be released, but I think Pritchard was having some issues with the printing, and hopefully he got all that squared away. But we'll see. And then it'll be a year or so for the next pulp's artwork to get all finished. And then once all the artwork for the next pulp is done, then I'll submit it formally. And then hopefully by then I'll have the next two pulps finished, and then I'll have a comic book gonna kind of go in there. And the idea is it'll be like five prose stories and then a comic book mixed in, like, and then like I'll sell those as a book, like collected omnibus of their short stories, and then kind of go from there. Excuse me. But beyond that, though, it's just your standard fantasy sword and sorcery adventure story, where you've got two characters whose like worldview is very, very different than what you might expect it to be, but that was done on purpose. So hopefully, thank you, Kahuna. My prose style. So the prose of the book is written like kind of in an old-fashioned manner, because the idea is the dragon talks like a fire and brimstone Baptist preacher from the Wild West. So like when you go from the opening of each of the pulps, which is like his personal journal entry, is he's kind of like, I'm setting up each story, like what they did in between each stories and stuff like that. But what will happen is eventually that turns into the actual story, and it's just told from his point of view, like from the dragon's point of view, just so it's written using a lot of lingo and words from the 15th century, because that took a little bit of research to kind of make it feel right as far as that would go. But as the series progresses, hopefully more and more like stories will come out, and then I'll have more characters, to like background characters, more information, and just more adventure and fun. So hopefully I can pull it off. Hopefully, we'll see. But I am committed. I'm gonna keep it going, because this is actually a lot of fun. This has probably been the most fun I've ever had in my life, just writing. Yeah, Bat Sauce. There are more dragons. So the idea is like they're on a floating island, and that's where all the dragons live. But the idea is, it's like when you see dragons like with riders, it's like they're dragons who cannot cast divine magic, but are still considered to be part of the church. So in order for them to be a low-ranking priest, that's, you know, their culture is very, very religiously minded, out of necessity, because they survived a catastrophic end of the world event, and it kind of colored their culture ever since. And yeah, Kahuna, it, like, a lot of it is like, when I submitted it to Daniel, he, like the first novella, the first comment he had told me was, it's like, okay, so why did you use the word phlegmatic? Nobody uses this anymore. Ew, what are you doing? And I said, no, it stays, and I just left it in there. So it's there for a reason. So but no, when you look at how the characters are set up, it's the whole point is they're there to be like for adventure and stuff. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Just yeah. Where are we at? Sorry.
Oh, I was just talking about like phlegmatic means stoic, bat sauce. So when I use like purposely like old words like that, I'm putting it in there for a reason. Just because like the dragon's like more than 2,000 years old. So the idea is, it's like, okay, he has an older vocabulary.
Yeah. You got to get the old timey vocabulary in there, you know.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but I mean,
and-
like I said, it gives it like a flavor. I think it's a good way to put it.
Exactly. Flavor text. And if you ever need like reference material, you got a big, thick, ancient book to read through whenever you need, like, as far as that goes.
Well, like,
you just crack open the Bible.
Yeah, well, it's not only the Bible, but it's also what do you call it? There's a military history book I was reading, and it, like, they have a lot of like directly translated letters from home and stuff like that. So their language and lingo was very, very different than what we use today.
Yeah, they it would have been almost hard to follow at the time.
Yeah.
What up, good stuff? Also, hail Wrangler. Yeah, at the time it would have been like, you take us and you put us back then, and it's like
they wouldn't understand us,
and we wouldn't. I think they might even have a better chance of understanding us than we them, right?
Yeah,
because
probably.
ours is so much simpler. To be honest.
Well, also it's like the English language does evolve a lot faster than a lot of people expect. So like the modern American English is full of slang, French, and Native American linguistics, like mimetic and linguistics and stuff like that. So if I were to say howdy, you know, we all understand what that means.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody,
because it has context, like within our culture or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, but also it's like howdy is like our slang version of how, which is the Native American greeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like, so stuff like that. So like when you have like a character who's more than 2,000 years old, is like, okay, how would he write? Like, what would that sound like? And so from there, it was like, okay, well, I'll write the opening, like the opening chapter, which is basically his personal journal, and like kind of, you know, telling you, okay, here, giving you all the contextual information you kind of need, and then from there, it like it kind of like just slowly morphs into an actual story, as if it was told by him. But it's, you know, from a third person perspective and stuff like that.
I love when a concept grabs you and just takes you in a direction like that. The same thing happened with my novel, which we can get into later. But yeah, continue.
Hey, John.
What up, John? You the chieftain. Who the orc? You the orc. You the orc. Yeah.
But no, it's like as the series progresses, eventually it's going to get like you'll get a lot more of like a larger viewpoint of how this entire setting goes.
Yeah.
Because I kind of explained it to you like when we were talking about like after you first read the pulp and kind of went from there.
Yeah. And if you're gonna, I mean, it's like you could almost do a bunch of different priest perspectives, you know what I mean, within this world. Because you have this concept of like good versus evil, right? And they're the artillery piece deployed. So if they're just a piece, you have this opportunity to explore all these other pieces, right? Which I think is cool.
And I do. And so like when I release the next pulp, and I'll send that to you after I get it, fully edited and everything, so you can, you'll be like one of my beta readers and stuff, as will John Douglas.
Oh yeah.
But the idea though is, when you see them out there, they took what is called the second oath. And so basically there's two oaths that you can take. The first one is like, your initial like, okay, I'm joining the priesthood, and I got to go through all the other stuff, but you have to take different oaths, like, a couple oaths of like service, stuff like that. The idea is like to kind of bind your soul to what it is you're doing. But when you take the second oath, that's basically, it's, we're not coming back. We're just gonna go back out on our light cleric period, and that's it. We're doing that till we die. So it's like it's a one-way trip for them. And then it's like as the story progresses, like you'll kind of figure out, why they're both out there.
Yeah, they're just, the chat's ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, so, but as the story is, but like when you get to like about the midpoint of like the initial like opening, the pulp stuff, they're gonna have been like in setting, they'll have been traveling for almost 100 years of fighting.
That's sick.
Yeah, so it's like they're like, by that point, like they're both like worn down, they're both haggard, they've thrown themselves at demonic entities and undead, all the worst you could possibly imagine. It just kept going. And because like the idea is, it's like they're both like willpower, like that's their virtue, that's their like main virtue is willpower. Suck, but it doesn't matter, we've been commanded to do it, therefore we will do it.
And you already got 100 years behind you or whatever, so what's another 2 or whatever, 3?
Oh yeah,
50.
well because it's like, because if you look at the Bible, it's like anybody who was granted like divine power had a long life. Moses lived for like almost 1,000 years. They had Methuselah and stuff like that. He had
the Sumerian kings list is fascinating.
Yeah. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, so how do I apply that to like a fantasy setting?
Right.
Okay, well that would have become more formalized. So all the priests do live for centuries, a lot longer. So like what'll happen is you'll have like a stagnated culture who just relies on magical healing. So certain things don't get developed, certain things don't happen, because all they have to do is just wave their hand and bless something, and oh hey, it's good. Don't have to worry about it. Right.
Dependent.
So that's kind of how I approached it. Yeah. So it's like that kind of approached it like, you have a world whose entire like mindset is dependent upon a greater, higher power. And then like, because Earth is the thing, this will eventually turn into an Aseki.
Sick.
So when you have somebody from Earth like sent to this, and it's like, okay, like I'm used to hardship, I'm used to suffering, I'm used to pain, and then like he gets sent to this world, it's like, okay, well you now have the ability to heal wounds. Like what would that do to the person? Because like while Sheridan and Torshin both are like the magical like artillery piece, like the divine artillery piece, if you have like somebody like a paladin, what would he be like? Right? Like what would be the logical extension of that? And the equivalent is basically he would be an army, like a one-man army who could not be stopped. And there is a paladin, but he's like the king of Dragonholm, and so it's like you'll kind of get you'll see what he's like and what that's like in comparison, because there is a vast power level difference between the priest and a paladin in the setting. I think Samson was like in his 30s when he died. Wrangler.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I can't find it quickly anyway, not at a glance, but yeah, I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me if Samson was one of those crazy ancient characters, and wouldn't surprise me if he was like 30, like Jesus. But yeah, I think you got a good idea here. And incorporating Earth is going to be an interesting little twist. You also got a lot of themes from spirit animals, but like in a very different way, because, like I said, that's more like animist. But it's interesting that your main characters are like the dragon rider, because not really spoiling anything because we got to get there, but like one of the characters and spirit animals that I plan on having be basically the, like, okay, Kahuna helped me write a character that's like a mix of Robin Hood lore with Hawaiian lore, and we kind of like melded two worlds there and created this legend. And basically, the people that follow this legend around are his merry men from like Robin Hood, right?
Yeah.
So that would be like a paragon character, but like I'm thinking like a step further, like like the dude, you know what I mean? And it's gonna have to be the dragon rider, you know what I mean? Who, like, because the dragon is just archetypically the most powerful beast, right?
Yeah. Well, also it's like when you look at, like, because I blended Eastern and Western dragons
Yeah.
in this, because again gave them a really unique look, and so far that's been like a lot of everybody who I've talked to is like, no, these look really interesting. But the idea
Yeah.
was they're covered in feathers because they're pseudo angelic. They're
Oh, that's cool.
divine species.
Kind of like Gandalf being like an angel. Like it's just one of those hidden angels. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, kind of like not so much hidden. It's more like their whole story is like their culture fell after a demonic incursion that destroyed their world, destroyed everything. But because they were saved by God, and they were sent to Galea, and Galea is a Earth-like world the size of Jupiter.
Oh, that's cool. Huge.
So
yeah.
So this planet is massive, and you're only seeing a small piece of it. But the idea, though, is even though they were saved, they still had to fight.
Yeah.
And like the idea is like they managed to win, but it was just that they held on by like the very narrowest of margins and pulled off victory, but at a great cost. So when you see Torshin and like his perspective, like he survived through all that. He was old when that war started, and that was like 3,000 years prior. And so like his people only live for about like 2,000 years normally. But when they're granted access to like divine magic and stuff like that, their lifespans dramatically extend to like what we would think normally as a dragon, like 10,000 years or something like that. So
that's cool. Good blend there.
Yeah.
Nice
So
blend.
like but the idea though with like them being angelic though was.
Oh, I think we lost you there for a second. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Biblically accurate angels.
There we go. Yeah.
What they would look like versus what do look like biblically accurate angels versus like our popular like people with wings, like how we would see an angel. Okay, so what would have been the cause of that? And that's kind of the dragons being that.
Yeah, and then of course, there's also the tie-in with biblical lore concerning dragons, right? The dragon is like the devil, right, or a demon.
Yeah, yeah. So the idea is with that is the ones that are scaly, they're corrupted. They're the dragons who got corrupted by the demonic entities. That's kind of the idea behind it. So
yeah, that's cool. It's a combination of the two. It's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, so I mean, it gave it personality. I feel like it's a good way to put it. Because I mean, I grew up reading dragon writing novels, and I always liked dragons. I thought they were cool. So.
Oh yeah, same.
But it's like I wanted ones like what would have been like, okay, if you mix a dragon with Solomon Kane, what would that look like? And Torshin, you get Torshin.
Hell yeah, you do.
Yeah, but beyond that though, it's like when I wrote Night of Cold Hunger, like that was about a year, like straight of just that one pulp, and I was writing the second pulp as well, and in between all that, but like it was a year per story basically is kind of how I'm approaching it.
Yeah.
And the idea was well, and as you read in the pulp, I think I pulled that off.
Yeah, you did. I was gonna say, beyond like the design of your dragons, very unique, like you said, and we kind of went over it. And I'll add that the antlers, rather than actual devil horns, actual
Yeah.
antlers, kind of like adds that neutral vibe to it. It reinforces the neutral. It reinforces the neutral vibe. But furthermore, I'd say like another area you shine, aside from like the badassery with like while they're like smiting people, I would say it's kind of in that same moment too, just in the descriptions of like the demons and the actual action taking place is also a good strength that I noticed when I was reading it.
Oh well, thank you. That
Yeah,
like I like action. Like I grew up on action movies during the '80s, so I'm spoiled when it comes to good action. It's like, and I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to that too. But I
there you
recognize
go.
that. Hey, I know what I like, and when a dude has a big fuck off hammer, and like divine retribution behind it, like no, it just makes it just that much more cooler. So it's like no, I
Yeah,
want them when they go out there to go smite things, you're gonna know they're gonna smite the damn things.
yeah, it's they're going to be playing baseball with baddies, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But also,
you
it's like
need to see
I
them
had to make it.
Negan. You need to see them Negan a few people, and there you go. Yeah.
Well, it's like because when I wrote like how Sheridan swings that hammer, like it was like the whole idea was it had to be brutal. All of it, like when he fights, there's no like finesse with that weapon. It's just no, I'm just here to crush you.
There isn't finesse, and when you think about it, you need the full momentum behind a hammer to do what the hammer's trying to do, which is at the very least dent armor. Like you're trying to break bones, disarm them, stuff like that, cave their skull
Oh yeah,
in with the one shot, but like, yeah, a lot of the times, like if you can't get the one shot, you're probably trying to smash a shield, disarm them, or cave in their chest plate or something.
oh yeah. Well, also it's like that hammer. It has like lore attached to it, and the head of that hammer is stone and metal. But in reality, that's the altar from Sheridan's church that survived after his people.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So that's basically his last tangible link to his family before they were killed. And I'm not spoiling anything that's in the story. That
Right.
Um. But so like
Having him swing that around and slay his enemies with that is pretty cool. It's like
yeah, but I had to give it like it had to feel like it had weight. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, in two ways, more than one way, I should say.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But it's like so when in the next story, like when he fights, like he has a different weapon. So the idea is he had a soldiering background, so he can use anything that he can get his hands on as a weapon. And he's been because they've been fighting for like 60 years up until that point. They're like he's pretty well trained as far as like dealing death. That was kind of the idea. So and that's where
yeah.
the Conan aspect comes in from for him personally. It's just he's not there to be subtle. Neither of them are. So their fighting style is not overtly
Artillery
subtle.
piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But when you see Torshin fight, I wrote him like he was fencing.
Yeah, that's
With his
interesting.
lance.
Yeah. But then and then you got the hammer. Well, the multiple fighting styles. I mean, yeah. It's needed.
Yeah,
You can't just be
but
like
yeah. Yeah, and then the heroes smote them. You can't just say that. You actually have to sit there and kind of get into the nitty gritty of like what it is they're doing and why. But with
yeah.
like Torshin, like my idea is like, well, he has been fighting off and on for most of his life, like for like at least for like the last like 20,000 years, give or take. doing
Right.
religious stuff. So
Hmm.
when he fights, like the idea is he's supposed to feel like a knight, like a crusading knight. So like almost like
Yeah.
Don Quixote
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
that regards. But when he brings out his lance, if he's on the ground, there's a lot of parrying, ripostes, and I purposely like describe it like he's fencing. But when he's in the air and
Yeah.
he's extended it and it's like he's using it like a jousting, like a lance would, like he would, like a jousting a knight would, with his lance. And from there, kind of like it just, okay, well, how would he fight like that? And then so that means they would have uh like a like an entire like fighting style like training, and so that like there'd be certain things that they would have to do,
Yeah.
like how a knight would do
Combos
when
and
they would
stuff.
train
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that was a
Yeah.
fun, yeah. Well, I mean, it was like a fun little like kind of like thought experiment, and then like having to go through and read like knight training manuals and like how they like why they did that and how they did all that. And it's like, okay, now let's apply it to a dragon. And
Yeah. When you really look at what it takes to take down a medieval knight in their prime, or even early on, if you had a fully armored man, you got to first and foremost you got to knock him down and disarm him. He's on his back like a turtle, and then you just got to pound away until the job's done. It's pretty
yeah,
crazy,
pretty much.
actually.
And
Like,
then like the
it
English,
takes a lot.
and then the English made the longbow and then a crossbow. Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
'cause I forgot the duke's, I forgot the duke's name, but there's a guy in England who basically ended knights, like him alone. Like when they started the war, he just basically foregone doing anything other than getting English longbows into the hands of as many peasants as he possibly could. And so when the
Oh, yeah.
king, and this is like probably at the tail end of the Hundred Years' War, if
Well,
I remember right.
the peasants, a lot of
But
them
when the
hunted,
king
right?
had sent his
So,
men out to go fight this dude, like he fought like a bastard.
yeah, yeah,
Well no, because basically a longbow is cheaper to make than a knight and maintain for
yeah.
that matter, soldiers and stuff like that. But like a majority of his army was just English longbowmen. So when
Right. And the
that
peasants,
in like
they
when
could
those
go out. They were proficient. They were like all the peasants were, even though they're just peasants and longbowmen, they were masters at it though, because they were hunters. It was far enough back in history where they were just still primarily hunting for a lot of like their meat, for example. So
yeah
they got damn good at using it because they just used it every day like a tool. And then now
yeah
they go to war and they're all masters at it. It's
yeah
pretty crazy.
well but the idea though was like I said, I can't remember the guy's name, but like he personally, like he ended the era of the knight with that one battle.
Oh yeah, it was against France, right?
I think so. Like I said, it's like
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've read that, but
it might have been. I
so
can't remember.
so the idea though, like in this setting, is because it's a 15th century fantasy setting, so it's early pike and shot. And
Oh,
so
that's
like
cool.
there are, yes, you got Giselles and you got early black powder weapons and stuff like that. Because I like that setting. I like that era. That's a really cool era, to
Where
kind
you
of
still
play
have like a little of everything. There's like some knightliness going on, but there's still guns, basically. Yeah.
well, it's like because how all of that worked is like if you look at the Landsec era of Germany and the Prussian Empire and stuff like that, uh, they had early arquebuses, and what those things would do is like they had like a maybe 30 yards of effective range. It was just enough that like it would render pike inefficient. And so what they would do is they would form up all their formations around the idea of like, okay, we've got a line of arquebuses on either side of our main core. They'll fire, they'll withdraw, and then everybody else runs in.
Right.
And it
Kind
was
of
like
like the
it was
Roman tactic with the pila, a little bit. A
almost.
little bit. Yeah.
But what had happened though was in this setting, it's like they never got out of that period.
Oh, I
So
love that when you get them stuck in yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so and then it's like, so okay, so what would that look like, but in like a medieval fantasy, like, or 15th century fantasy setting? And from there, it just told itself. Like, you
I
have
love that.
We have nations that are analogs for their earthly counterparts. That's done on purpose because everybody does that.
Yeah.
And then like so you've got Drakenholm, which is in essence like Switzerland and the Holy Roman Empire. And Dragonholm itself is like the spiritual head of the church for the humans, in their empires.
Yeah.
Then you have their northern neighbors of Lialto, which is like Spain mixed with Russia, and then you've got Barovia, which is basically England, complete with retarded wigs and bad teeth.
Yeah, gotta. And
then
decadence and
oh yeah.
sludge when they talk.
But as you write it though, like because I'm trying not to ape like what Warhammer Fantasy was doing, but and if anybody tells me it's like, oh, well, you're stealing from them, it's like, no, I'm just stealing from history, what they did.
And there's a difference between theft and inspiration.
Yeah, yeah. And also like because
real.
my idea though is like I'm gonna move it up to a different time period when I get to the graphic novel, because that'll be when it gets really entertaining to me, at least, because then it's like
if people want to start accusing you, okay, here's the thing about them. So there's certain timeless tropes. There's certain timeless tropes that are just, I mean, cavemen probably figured this out back then in their stories. Like, think of like the Norse with their super weapons and stuff. There's just, if you're ripping off anything by just kind of being inspired and having some elements of it, or maybe even a tone, right? Like a similar tone. Some people try to say like, just having like a grimdark space fantasy with orcs is like
40K. Yeah.
Essentially, right? But like that's just not the case. You know what I mean? If people want to start making those accusations, then like 40K with like their power armor and mechs and stuff, like we can get down and dirty, and like basically they were ripping off a novel from like the 20s from a nobody author that everybody rips off now that uses power armor, if that's the case. Or we can acknowledge the fact that power armor in and of itself is a timeless cultural trope that is the fully realized final form of like magical armor, right? It's
totally.
like magical protection, and it's the same with like a lightsaber or the runic blade that can cut through anything.
Well, like a lightsaber is literally the God, what I forgot what saint has that sword.
Ooh, that's interesting.
But it's
interesting.
It's no, because he borrowed heavily from Christian like stuff. So, but the idea though is with Savage Adventure Tales, I just wanted a generic fantasy setting that you would see in a JRPG or an anime. I said, okay, now I'm going to angle grind all the weeb off of it, and then what do you got left? And so once you've angle ground all the weeb off of anime, what do you have? It's like, well, you have just an action adventure story. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
With traditional values. Yeah. Specific, like, yeah. Yeah.
But how do you make it? How do you approach it in such a way? Well, it's like when Razor Fist did his pulp video, because that's what really spurred me on to do all this. I just said, okay, well, I like Solomon Kane, I like Conan, I like what I like, and I know what I like. So I'll like apply it to this, but I'll just make sure that the world is almost like something from Breath of Fire.
Well, you're doing the thing where you're
people and stuff like that, and those are the pucks.
Right. And you're doing the thing that where you're learning from the side of the world that's currently drinking our side of the world's milkshake when it comes to this stuff. Like they're destroying us in animation. Like more people probably. I mean, unless you want to count.
Oh yeah.
Unless you want to count like I don't know, shows like Bluey for kids. You know what I mean? Stuff like the viral shows in the West. I don't count those though. Like I'm talking about shows that people like seek out. Like, I mean, they're killing us on animation and storytelling and comics. Like, it was like Ninja Turtles. That was it, right? I don't know what it currently looks like. It's like I saw them in Ninja Turtles. You know.
Well, also like they. Still with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They what?
Testing.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me, sir? Oh, gotcha. Yeah, for those still with us, thank you for sticking around and listening to Mr. Dragoon tell us about his world. It's awesome. He also does some stuff with mechs. Just as a fantasy author myself, I can't help but dive into the fantasy aspects of his world. So, can you hear me? Oh, you're cutting out a little. Oh, there you are. You there?
Man, we're just getting to a good part of the discussion too.
We're good. We're good. Can you hear me? Oh no, I don't think you can. Well, let me see here.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. Hopefully he'll. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Oh yeah.
There you are.
Yeah.
Now I can
you hear me? Can you hear me too?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. We're good. All right. Tech gods. All right. So where were we?
Like, I mean, they don't like they're telling stories just to tell a story, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
However, over here, it's like it's become like heavily politicized. Everything has become heavily politicized over here to the point where it's not fun to watch a movie. It's just not. I'm like the last movie I really enjoyed was Dread. It's the last one I saw in the theaters that I actually truly enjoyed. Everything else has just been like a chore.
Oh yeah, Dread. Dread was pretty good. That was the one with Cersei in it, right? Queen Cersei. Because I think there was multiple.
I don't know.
Okay. I think she was.
There's one with Carl Urban as Dread.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So.
But no, it's like, but their entertainment isn't politicized. It's like kind of like this last like vestige of a breath of fresh air, even though it's the same story tropes told repeatedly over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like when you watch, like if you watch one anime, you've seen them all, unless it's truly something unique or has like kind of like a different like perspective on it, which is always nice.
Right.
So I thought, well, if I'm going to do like this grand experiment of okay, I'm going to blend American pulp writing, anime tropes. What do I get? And Savage Adventure Tales. I mean, that's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But even then, it's just like, you know, I had to make sure that the characters were not only believable and had their own voices, but it's like they just felt the part.
Yeah, exactly.
And it felt right, and it's kind of hard to describe because when you read these two characters, they feel like a priest, like right, you know, like it, you know, just spiritually, like you just feel it. It's like no, they're two priests and they're what they're doing, like kicking ass in the name of the Lord. But you know, I still wanted it to be entertaining. I wanted to keep it, you know, I wanted to keep the politics out of it. I wanted to keep it, you know, unless it's like politics within the setting, which is perfectly acceptable.
Oh yeah, that actually is a great way to
like
foreshadow
like
and world build.
Oh yeah, totally. But it's like when you get to like the last, I don't know, the last 20 years of American cinema and like media and stuff like that, as far as like, you know, and that's fine because like there's only so much you could do, you know, with that. But you know, it's like they had a generation of people who just didn't understand how to like tell a story when they hired them. And so for like the last 10 years, and then as we found out later, it's like they were basically getting bailed out with DEI stuff like that.
Yep. Unlimited money from BlackRock.
You know, they had no incentive. Yeah, exactly. So it's like they had no incentive to actually like put effort into this, and it was just like, oh no, just shit it out. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Nobody's gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Unless they're like stupid. But even then, it's gotten to the point now who are even out of because like they looked at what happened to Bud Light, they looked what happened to Harley Davidson, they looked at everything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And look what they have wrought, from like their corporate greed. And then meanwhile, guys like, yeah, Wrangler, that's very true. But meanwhile, guys literally just indie, like on the indie scene, we have everything. We have every reason in the world to make sure what it is we're writing is good, because otherwise we're not going to make it. It's not going to sell. So
yeah, it's like the polar opposite. Yeah.
When I started, yeah. Excuse me. It's like when I started, my initial thought process was, hey, I can write better than this. Just flat out, I can write better than these idiots. And turned out I can. Who knew?
Yeah, a lot of people can. It's pretty sad, to be honest. And they're just getting millions of dollars and it's just being burnt. It's just, But I think just for the risk of not having any more internet issues, we're approaching the hour mark. Why don't you go ahead and say your final shills here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't expecting the internet to continuously die for the two of us, but
you're good. I wasn't expecting my kid to get into a keyboard either, so here we are. I should probably.
That's okay. Don't worry about
it.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you are tired of the woke bullshit, if you are tired of soulless characters being told by soulless people to sell a soulless product, then come over here. Go to Anvil Magazine. We have the link, I believe, tagged in there for issue number 4, and that's we get to see the first half of Night of Cold Hunger. Now, Mr. Pritchard here has read the pulp in its entirety and has given me a very, very wonderful review, and I thank you very much for that. And hopefully, your wife enjoyed the story too.
Oh yeah, she did. I had fun writing the review too. I have a little history as a movie review journalist. Surprise, Kahuna! Whoop!
Hey,
I have a, but yeah, I have a little history as a movie review columnist. So I had some fun with that. How you doing, Kahuna?
Yeah,
better than you guys.
But hopefully, like I said, it's like. Well, I live in California, and internet's just shit out here. Period. So.
Yeah, the infrastructure, right? Yeah.
You figure they would be better out there because that's like where everything, like where culture is made and whatever. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, because all the that's where all the crackheads will steal all the Cat 5 cable because there's potentially copper in there.
Yeah, potentially.
The copperheads, yeah.
It's not even like Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. You can't even burn it. It's just like I might be able to get like 4 cents for this, guys.
Yeah. That adds up, man. I can get some crack.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, if you're tired of just soulless entertainment, come on over. I've got something good here. I will at least give a shit when I write it because I want to be entertained while I'm writing it because that means if I'm entertained, you're entertained.
Yeah, and that's
the best I can hope for.
That's one of the best draws about indie in general is that a lot of it, for the most part, unless it's just someone just trying to make a quick buck, it's filled with a lot of passion and a lot of soul. Like a lot of my favorite writers, if you go back to their earliest books, you'll find something similar. You have that passion and that energy there, even if their writing craft isn't quite up to snuff, or at least what it will become later down the line.
Right. Hey, Kahuna.
Oh yeah, totally. Hey Kahuna, send me your email. Send me your email on X, and I'll send you a copy of the first pulp.
Oh, sweet! Yeah, I'd love to read it, man.
And we got this. I'm not forgetting my stuff this time. Let's do it.
So I'm gonna get your thoughts, and if you can, give me a review.
I'll do a review like someone in bad faith. It's bad. Don't read it. It's terrible. Frankly, the worst.
Mm-hmm. Bad faith. Yeah. So this was a video. I know we were just kind of wrapping up, but I feel a little better with Kahuna because it
this is
provides
just
a
total
little
bullshit.
It provides a little balance to bounce back and forth. But
you know what I would
we'll
call this piece? I would call it bullying. Dangers of bullying. It's like that one just beating the piss out of him. He's like, "Where's my lunch money?"
The dangers of bullying. I love that.
Okay, quick, get the hamsters some meth so they'll get on the little wheels and go faster.
We'll still make our way.
I want to find a way to combine sci-fi and do sci fantasy and have a mech powered by magical running hamsters. I want to find a way to do it. There has to be a way it can work.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is just look at when they did Escaflowne, because those are basically that was magical mecha.
Or go like Gurren Lagann style, where just change the laws of the universe. So fighting spirit and yelling literally creates energy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be crazy.
Are these
Rainbow
yours,
says
Paladin?
No, this is for the sci. Yeah, this is for. Pardon?
Oh, Rainbow said he could make that happen.
What did you say, Kahuna?
I was asking if this art we're looking at is yours.
No, that is from my cover artist Lolo's art. Go give him a follow and commission him if you need a cover art done for your book. He is really good and well worth the money.
Yeah, you can see his whole process.
This is for my sci-fi property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is for my sci-fi property called Exocav, and so this is a. If you've ever watched Armor Trooper Votoms, that's an old anime, but basically it was one of the early mecha series, and it's heavily influenced for this. But this is a story that's set in Fulda Gap during World War III, 200 years from now.
Oh, sweet!
And so they're currently fighting in Fulda, Germany, and it's like a atomic radioactive wasteland, and they're fighting against the East Bloc Dominion, which is basically communism, Big Brother, China, and Russia, and parts of the Middle East.
I might have guessed that without the explanation. Actually, just the name.
Oh yeah,
I can see what happened here.
yeah. But the idea is the mechs, the setting has the war has devolved for 60 years. It's gone on. It's a multi-generational war effort in order to achieve victory.
Is it kind of like BattleTech, where there was better technology, but as the war has ravaged more and more of the systems of operation, technology has kind of fallen by the wayside somewhat?
Not so much technology. Well, it's not so much technology; it's more tactics have devolved. So what's happening is because the battlefield is absent of air power due to the proliferation of anti-aircraft systems, missiles, laser towers for the U.S. and NATO, and just 20 millimeter to 128 or 120 millimeter flak cannons. So basically it's you can't really get close to the battlefield without getting your air assets shot. So they have these mech suits which will allow people
systems.
Yeah, for the most part, and then until it goes out into space, and that's it's a different. But tactically, they're all using strategy and tactics from the early 1900s, late 1800s or early 1900s. So basically, that means they're doing cavalry charges with mechs. So when I came up with that concept, the idea of these guys, the ideas of these of the officer screaming at his men get on the line, get ready, and basically it's they're driving in a massive horde, because these mechs are cheaply made, and they're the equivalent of a Sherman tank in World War II as far as protective
gotta get that
stuff. Nice. But it's not sold as being a heavy tank how they did with but it's a cyberpunk western, so all the soldiers have cybernetics and got these mechs and shit, but it's I'm writing it almost Lonesome Dove, but from the point of view of a guy riding in a mech.
That's fun, dude.
Oh yeah.
Like, see, like it's
just,
like when they did the Mandalorian in Star Wars. It's like they made it more Western, and I was like, yeah, people like that shit, man. It's nothing
yeah,
new, but the idea, like, you still want
and
it.
then they took that, and then they took that and they put it into a barrel full of acid, and then they set it on fire.
And then they said this is the way
They killed
900
all the fun.
times.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, so
Season 1 and 2 were it was a good show with some like, cringy bad moments, but mostly good.
Yeah.
And then season 3, I threw up.
Yeah.
well, because like basically they shit canned Gina Carano, and
Yeah, it was over after that. That was the death
Yeah,
date for sure. Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But so the idea is those, like, tactically, we've devolved back down to cavalry charges. So
Oh hell yeah.
so like, but in these mech suits, because
Yeah, dude. You're onto something here. I think Kahuna's actually working with me and Bat Sauce on a sci-fi world. We got mechs, but it's not mech focused with cavalry charges. I'm focusing my energy a little bit more on like swashbuckling. So like the whole concept of like Punic War, trireme warfare, where you have a large bronze ram on the front of your ship, and you board the other ship, and it's more of like soldier versus soldier.
We have the
Swashbuckling.
sci-fi technology, but it's all scuffed. Like,
we have
an evil force of AI, like this intergalactic group, but they are the least AI sounding AI in sci-fi you've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like in this setting, the idea is it's about 200 years in the future, and when World War III happened, which was like 60 years prior to the events of the story, the war had been going on to the point where we had a rapid proliferation of technological advances, just because that's what war does. War is ultimately, the mother of invention. Hostility is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you have, like, and I base that off of looking at what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now, because they're fighting trench warfare with basically sci-fi weaponry.
Yeah, dude. That's kind of what urban warfare is in a way. Urban warfare is kind of like 3D trench warfare, isn't it? Like, in a way.
I like to think of it as really extreme airsoft.
Yeah, the craziest game of paintball you've ever had.
Yeah, with actual life or death consequences.
Yeah,
but with this setting, though, the whole concept is these suits were designed for urban combat, because urban combat is a nightmare just to deal with. So the idea was these things are about as tall as a big rig is. And so they can actually get in through the city.
If those guys are like 6 foot tall, they're like 12 to 15 feet tall. So yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And it probably helps to have a giant suit of armor, in order to you could just walk through a building if you need to, for example.
Some buildings. Buildings. If they're steel
cannons,
yeah.
Yeah. They've built up urban, like, ruins. So think Stalingrad, but it's like 6 times its size.
And
that was kind of like
they don't
thought.
Imagine if they treated the mech warriors like the Russians did with their soldiers. All right, you get a gun, you get ammo. We don't have enough for both, so you're going to have to share. So
yeah. Go out there unarmed, and wait until
like,
somebody dies, and then pick up their gun.
Then pick up
like
their gun.
That's kind of what it was. Yeah.
Well, so when you go to but when you look at the Dominion, they've devolved down to the Soviet human wave tactics to grade defensive structures and positions. So the idea was, when they built these, like, resources are heavily limited on Earth there, and we've currently expanded out into space, and we're mining all the asteroids around our local solar system. But these suits are, like, they've got, like, carbon fiber 3D printed armor plates that have like steel woven in, like a steel thread woven into it.
Oh,
They're
okay.
cheap.
So they're using minimal metal. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
not.
they're
They're not
the only
heavy machines.
actual the only because they weigh no more than 10 tons. But the
that's
only
really,
actual
that's really low. Yeah.
yeah, so the only actual metal on these things are basically their skeletal frame, and then the the coffin that the pilot sits in that's inside the chest.
Oh, it very much is like a cavalry then, where you just need to overwhelm
Exactly.
people. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm glad they didn't skimp out on on what protects the pilot.
Yeah. Well, and
sorry, that was me.
Okay, no problem. But all those weapons, like so, the pistols and the rifles, they're all 20mm autocannons because nothing says "fuck your shit" like a Bushmaster autocannon. You've got a recoilless anti-tank rifle, and you got like shields and stuff like that. And so like there's like the only laser systems are like these massive anti-missile systems because what had happened was in universe nuclear weapons were launched in a limited atomic exchange between the East and the West.
Okay.
And then
got to get that in there. Yeah.
Because China is incredibly inept, because they're communist and they're stupid. They had an industrial accident that in essence released a bioplague that wiped out 40% of the human population in Eurasia.
You do have to give.
They would never accidentally release something that hurt people.
China never. No. I was gonna say you do have to give filthy commies credit where it's due. They do amazing when they're being invaded because they're a total dictatorship, and so they can just pick up like entire industrial complexes and move them like Russia did during World War II. Russia actually saw like bone crushed Germany. That's what happened. That's what happened in World War II. Russia bone crushed Germany, and then we kind of came in and cleaned up.
Yeah.
Because Stalin did Stalin
quick,
things.
I have to correct one thing. I live in a free country.
But
I don't have to give them anything.
Exactly.
So, anyway.
Exactly. But they do good at being invaded, I have to say, because like
they
what
let
we saw,
winter kill them. That's their that's their fallback.
They moved the cities, Kahuna.
Well,
they moved them. They're like, we're gonna pick it up and put it over there. It's crazy.
Yeah, they raised 5 million troops in 4 months.
Don't ask how. Yeah.
I know how because I read the journal of a girl from one of those villages. They would go in, grab every dude, and be like, "All right, you're a unit.
You're in."
This girl did not meet a man until she was 13 years old.
Yikes, dude.
She had never seen one before.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and also, but if you look at what's going on currently over there right now, it's pretty much still like that, but just on the Ukrainian side.
Yeah.
But no, I was going to say, if you can go back to Lolo's
his video
YouTube page real quick.
Yeah.
Or you just click on this, and then if you go to all of his videos, you'll see like one of the ones for Paladin Dragoon that he drew, and so you can play that back real quick, and then I'll let you go. But
I am trying to find the link to the speed draw. Was that in our DMs, or was that in the private chat at all? That speed draw, because that has Lolo's channel.
It's in private chat.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in private chat.
Yeah. I have a speed drawing of a piece of art
the last
done
link
for
I
me
sent
by my animated moon that I'll be showing people here soon. Pretty excited, man. I showed all the guys on the Iron Seas Discord page. I love that image. I'm real excited to show people how it's put together and all of that.
I'm excited to see it, dude.
Nice.
You gotta, man. I can't wait for the first Kahuna lore to emerge. Like, you're in on it a little bit with the spirit animals with me, but I want to see some full-blooded Kahuna. You know what I mean?
Be careful! Don't put that in a search bar. You won't like what you find.
Full-bodied Kahuna.
Full-bodied, large and in charge, as they do.
Is this mech pilot painting? Is this mech pilot painting process here? The one you're talking about? Or my it's not up yet.
Pull
Here
up
we
real
go.
quick.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. This one.
Yeah. So if you click on that one, that's like the initial and
Okay.
like
This is the initial. Okay.
picture here.
Is this the one you wanted to share?
Yeah. Done.
Okay.
Done. For me. And this like, yeah, and so like, yeah, and the idea is like, well, I was just saying, if you go into like his base, that's out there.
Yeah.
And hopefully my.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, I see why you wanted to pull this one up, because you can kind of see the how the interior works and stuff. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so like the idea is this mech here that he drew, that's like the trainer version, so that would be the last generation. Before we got to the new ones, the ones that you saw in the prior video.
Yeah.
Also,
That's
can
cool.
we have like whenever there's new industrial technology,
But he really
be
knocked it out
at some
that.
point. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I want to
gonna
hear
say,
what
like-
you're. Yeah.
Oh, can't we do what every like modern day inventor does? Like even Rivian, you know those electric trucks that are overrated and overpriced? Well,
Yeah.
the first ones, they didn't have all those fancy buttons
Yeah.
and electrical controls. They had tractor buttons to operate most of their systems. Can we have like a mech that's not like nice and intuitive, like nice little control system, just like, oh,
You gotta
lever,
learn it.
oh, this
Yeah.
one's a little loose, crap, oh, this
Yeah.
one you can't go all the way left, otherwise it starts seizing.
Well, no.
I hope so.
Well, the whole idea though is the pilots have like a neural link that they plug into the suits. So the suits are like, they function like an extension of the human body. So they move like a human would. And they're actually agile, because the idea was they were designed for urban combat, so they can climb and, you know, like.
Oh yeah.
I forgot the term, but brachiate, like an ape, like through and through.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So they can go down
pilots
onto all
jacked
fours,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, but the pilots are jacked in.
Mm.
Yeah, but the pilots are
That's a
jacked
good
in
idea.
with like a neural plug that goes into the base of their skull and like the left side of their temple. But when they're actually inside, they have digital, like they have analog, like control systems, and not only as a backup, but also as a physical sensation of when they go to fire their weapons, because it gives it.
Oh yeah.
It
You could have
adds a
all
little bit
that.
more,
Yeah.
like when you do stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh shit! We lost him.
Oh, he
Kahuna,
died.
are you there, Kahuna? We'll
I
give
can
him some
pretend to be him.
time. We'll give
All
him some
right, so
time here.
we're gonna be talking about some mechs here, boy. You got a
What?
riot shield there.
We got incoming Paladin. How you doing,
Okay,
buddy?
Dad. It just. Yeah, sorry about that.
You're good.
But when you get to the Dominion, their tech is like 50 years behind us, even 200 years from now. So
Yeah.
all their stuff, in order to overcome like electronic warfare and jamming efforts, it's all analog. It's all like wired and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when you go inside their mechs are like are like this claustrophobic mess where the pilot is likely not going to survive if the mech gets hit.
Right, because they're like
they
one with the mech. Yeah.
Give that little of a shit about.
Yeah.
But they're not permanently like hardwired in, but
Right,
for the non-officers, they have to control it with like manual controls, and they're not as good as the U.S. troops who do have the cybernetic uplinks.
Yeah.
However, the officers have.
I do like when technology is limited by something and it makes sense. Like in Dune, they were almost killed by computers. Like they had their own version of Skynet, and that's why they use like all mechanical stuff. They don't have computers at all, which I always thought. I always like when a story has a reason for that.
Yeah, and
very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea behind that in this setting is the mechs are, in essence, like I said, a Sherman tank, but they're used in mass waves in order to like take a position or what have you.
You got to go the MSU route, right?
So like when they
MSU.
go up against the Dominion, yeah. but when they go up against the Dominion's still using like tactics from the late 1900s as far as degrade position with infantry waves, and the idea is like after the plague hit, everybody had to develop fertility drugs, so you had a massive explosion of a population birth rate across all countries.
Those
soldiers
that led to basically like human
turned
life
every soldier into a Navy man.
Yeah, it turned they're all Navy men when they got home. Giggity.
Seamen everywhere. Anyway.
Seamen everywhere. Yeah.
But the idea though is like but with the Dominion though, like they just take their like the next generation, like, okay, you're now in the military, and they just mass conscript everybody, who is of physically able and of age, and they ship them off to go fight because it's cheaper for them to kill their population than it is to take care of them.
Yep. Oh, sounds familiar.
So, like, yeah.
Mishka, Mushka.
The idea was like I wanted to have fun with it, and so like I was like, well, I'm just going to make a cyberpunk western. I just wanted like a cyberpunk western with mechs. But I think it's been almost been an hour 30. So
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, Kahuna, shill some stuff, brother. Shill for us, man. Shill.
Now, guys, I'm going to do something I've never done before. The Iron Seas has a poll up currently on Twitter. And I put forth Man of Steel. But you know why I put forth Man of Steel? Because the movie that should win was already put forth by AC. This is Sparta! Vote 300, boys.
Oh,
y'all
damn.
know it should win. It's going to win anyway without any help from me. But
I voted for that too.
I did
and people
too.
say it. People are like, "Oh, it's just
I
it's
voted
not
for
as
300.
good. It doesn't hold up." I'm like, no, guys, watch the movie again. It's not going to be an art house piece that is talked about like Citizen Kane, but it is a great movie. Well acted, interesting visuals, whole thing. It's great.
It might be in some ways, Kahuna. In some ways, it might be talked about as like a piece like that. Just saying. Because it
Anyone
is true
who
to the
votes
source
for
material.
BVS is going to be sent home or to a hospital. I don't know. Something bad is going to happen to you. Swear to God. That sauce was a madman for putting that in.
Straight to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah.
That is my second most disappointing movie experience in a theater ever. Not the worst movie of all time, but just I had high expectations, and the movie was what that movie is.
With a name like that, dude, yeah, you better deliver. Yeah, you better deliver.
Straight garbage.
Well, no, I mean,
not even.
If
you guys remember that time when
if you want to
they
see
gave
something that's
Superman
like
an opportunity,
a real mindfuck.
Yeah, mindfuck. Yeah.
I'll say, if you want a real good mindfuck, watch Meet the Weevils.
Meet the Weevils.
And that is a puppet exploitation movie by Peter Jackson.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
We gotta watch it.
Puppet exploitation by Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings fame.
That's funny.
How
also,
did that
is foul.
Didn't he go to sleep? What? He somehow heard us.
He woke up. He rose from bed.
He felt that you were
come
saying
say he
that.
jerks at the Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. I was gonna say the GIFs have been pretty hilarious. The Bats versus Superman GIFs. Nothing compared to 300 though. I said to myself, look at this movie. It's adorable. It's trying to be a cultural bomb with people like Superman in it and names like Batman. A melding of two worlds, they say, but there's no greater melding of two worlds like East meets West. With the Persian Empire, you get the Persian Empire versus the Greeks. You got to get the Greeks. I said to myself, I got to recruit every Greek. We always support the Greeks. I over here. So 300, it's a cultural bomb. There's no comparison.
We have a movie now about Persia being conquered by Alexander the Great, please.
Oh, a good one, please. A good one.
On elephants, but with elephants.
And like the nitty-gritty of it, like a grimdark one where they like get down with the tactics of it, like how he actually just like, and the pure just sheerfire inspiration that the dude like like the first one over the wall,
like a Rome style, a like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon style show about Alexander's life,
but like the tactics is the focus, you know what I mean? But it's his life, but like that's the appeal, is where like it's like strategy warfare or whatever, like instead of like Game of Thrones politics. That's like, the replacement with that.
It's like gods and generals.
That sounds like it would be like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Gods and Generals.
I haven't seen Gods and Generals, but that would be fucking
Civil
dope,
War.
It'd be so sick.
I mean, we could always use more biopics, like The March of the 10,000.
Give that one a watch. That's a really good. That's a really good movie, Gods and Generals. Give that one a watch.
I'll watch Gods and Generals in March of the 10,000. You said
they don't have a movie about it. It's a book. It's a translated first-person account of a guy. Basically, they were recruited to be part of this army during the Greek days. They went out to fight this war. The generals from the opposing armies negotiated, and you're like, "Oh, we don't need to fight. What are we doing here? We took like a year to get here. All right, guys, go home." And so no compensation, and now there are 10,000 men.
But no,
no
I want
a
series like a Gods and Generals.
That's so sick.
Well, I want a Gods and Generals series, but set in the Chosen Reservoir from the Korean War, because that would be fucking cool as shit. That was some amazing shit they pulled off.
That would be good, yeah. Dude, there's so many gritty moments, and I think Kahuna just touched on. It just revitalized something in me. I haven't looked one up in a while, not since I was like writing RK stuff. But one of my main inspirations is freaking just tasty firsthand accounts. Like we all hear about the not firsthand accounts. Sorry, I'm confusing that with First Contact. But we all hear about like the terrible. We'll leave it on this note here with a wholesome First Contact story, right? We all hear the stories of just like, oh, they came and gave everybody like smallpox and conquered everybody and took their shit and whatever.
They gave us syphilis.
Yeah, that stuff. But nobody talks about I mean, there's admittedly far less examples of what I'm about to say, but like nobody talks about the ones that actually do exist, like where they meet like, I don't know, Eskimos, and they like have a snowball fight and kind of just trade and try to learn about each other, and it's just a fucking beautiful thing. It's basically the story of Thanksgiving. It's you either get conquistadors and like plague, or you get Thanksgiving. That's the two outcomes to First Contact.
You can't really blame the Spanish for the disease. How would you know back then?
Right.
That would happen.
Right.
Like there's no frame of reference to let you fit. Like you might think that like sometimes weird diseases come out of the Orient, but most of the time, like it was such a entire different ecosystems of disease grew up in different, completely isolated in different parts of the world, and then all of them got slapped together, and then Spain killed two cultures with about
which is the end of War of the Worlds, right? So, yeah.
I like HULs. I thought that was the gayest piece of that. Possibly.
It's like realistic, but super. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's realistic, but not satisfying whatsoever.
So,
it's like, who is the hero? Disease.
Should I? Oh, man. Next time I'm going to come prepared with a wholesome firsthand account, and we're going to all have a good moment. But I encourage everybody to watch it or go read a wholesome firsthand account. Like the good First Contact stories are awesome.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Check it out because it's awesome. Until next time, guys, I appreciate having you on. You're awesome, Paladin, Dragoon. Everybody go check out his stuff in Anvil and
testing
everywhere else.
Testing.
Yes. We can hear you. You're good, brother. You're good, brother. We love you.
I love that internet. It makes it so fun.
But yeah, until next time, everybody. Cheers.
There you go. All right. good one.